Dead White Man Music is the title of a harpsichord concerto by Evan Williams. And people ask about the title, and basically it's based upon an old classical music joke, which is you're going to a concert, you're going to play something, and people ask, what are you playing? And you go, I don't know, something by some dead white guy. And basically that's usually true. Now, Evan Williams, as a young black composer, is looking at his own role as a composer of classical music, where most of his models are white guys and most of them are dead. And how does he respond to that? Now, he wrote an extensive program note to the premiere of the concerto, which I will link in the comments, which you can read about his point of view of it. But I think there's something really interesting about this concerto, and that is how he approaches the source material, which is the fact that each of the three movements of the concerto are based upon a kind of iconic piece of classical music, and very old iconic piece of classical music. The first is based upon the Lutheran hymn Es ist genug, and this is a hymn that was written by Johann Rudolf Alle in 1660 or something like that, and is most famous for its use in the Cantata 60 by Johann Sebastian Bach in the last movement, and also in the second movement of Berg's Violin Concerto. And I'm going to play you the tune as it was originally written by Alle and as it was harmonized by Bach. And we might want to listen a bit and notice something about it. Is there's some spicy harmonies in there. Like at the last note of the first bar, you've got this, that's pretty rough, and then it ends like that. And the melody, that's pretty spicy. And then I want you to hear how this is handled by Evan Williams at the beginning of his concerto. And I'm going to transpose it into the same key, so they're both in A. But you can hear what he does with it. Notice he's taken out most of the spiciness, and he's harmonized it a little peculiarly, I must say, but it's by no means as intense as the original. And I think that he's making a statement here, and he's making a statement that this is what you think Dead White Man music is like. You think it's like this. It isn't quite, but he's playing on the stereotype of it, and I kind of quite enjoy that. And in the rest of the movement, what he does is he kind of plays with that, but does some really, really interesting things with it, and kind of transforms the melody in new ways. The second movement is based on the tune Flow My Tears by John Dowland. And again, this is an iconic piece of music. Dowland was a composer who lived almost exact contemporary of Shakespeare, actually. And this was written in the 1590s, very popular in its own day, still popular today. It's been covered by a million different people, including the pop artist Sting. And we'll get back to that in a second. So here is this tune. Sad little tune, very, very nice, and kind of straightforward in a way. But what's interesting about it is that his harmonization of this, which I'm not going to play for you, is really, really odd and really peculiar. But then later on in the movement, what he does is he takes this basic idea takes that melody and attaches it to something we call the Andalusian progression, which goes like this. with that. It's in thousands of pop tunes. In the 60s and 70s, it was in everything. Hotel California, California Dreamin', the opening of Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys. And it's been used in thousands of tunes. And it was used in classical music a lot too. And so what he does is he gives it a very, very pop rendition of this in the middle of the movement, showing how these things are linked together. And then in the last movement, he bases it on La Folia, which was a tune and a chord progression that was very much part of the 18th century. Every 18th century composer seemed to do a version of it, and as a matter of fact, well into the 19th century, because Beethoven quotes it in his Fifth Symphony in the second movement. Salieri did a set of variations on it. Liszt wrote a piece called Spanish Rhapsody that's based on it. And Rachmaninoff wrote a set of variations called Variations on the Theme of Corelli, because he knew it through Corelli's setting. Now listen to it, and you will recognize something about it. Now you're going to go, where have I heard that before? Well, it's been used in about 70,000 movies. It's a standard type of thing that is used in movies and in television shows to suggest various things. I think part of it is kind of a threatening mood. It was used in Barry Lyndon, 1978 movie, in Handel's setting in order to suggest this sort of elegance. So it has various points, and it is an iconic chord progression, a really, really neat one if you think about it. 1, 5, 1, 7, 3, 7, 1, 5. It's a really, really kind of interesting chord progression. And this, of course, has virtually never been used in popular music. As a matter of fact, the one example anybody could find is Oops, I Did It Again by Britney Spears. And in fact, that one works so perfectly that you could set the Corelli directly underneath it, and people have done this and put her melody on top of it, and it works absolutely perfectly. But again, he was taking this iconic piece of classical music. And how does he handle it? Well, he spends about 2 minutes, 3 minutes doing some sort of introduction to the movement, which is a kind of minimalist, sounds like Steve Reich type of thing. And then finally you just hear, that's it. More Steve Reich, and then a bit more, but Steve Reich for a while, more Steve Reich, and he kind of teases you with it until finally you hear it pretty clearly in a section that he says sounds like a demented funhouse. And then finally, at the end of the piece, having spent 8 minutes, 9 minutes bringing you up to it, he finally lets you hear the tune in all of its glory with lots of trills and lots of other things going on, and then the piece ends. And I think this is a beautiful way of bringing together various ways of handling the material of classical music in various different ways, deconstructing it, bringing it back together, and making dead white music alive for the next generation. Come hear us do it. Phoenix, Arizona, Musical Instruments Museum, 7:30 p.m., October 17th. See you there.